Hi and welcome to Gaffy's Grinds. In this channel, we take topics from junior cycle science, we break them down, and we give you guys some practice to do on the topic to make sure that you learn it properly. We're about to start a new topic. It's an incredibly fascinating topic. First of all, because it's chemistry. Chemistry is the best, but it's an idea that scientists have been struggling with and wrestling with for many, many hundreds of years. And it starts with a simple question, really, and it's got to do with what is stuff made of. So I just want to show you a picture that contains a few objects. So I want you guys to just take a look at the objects in that picture for a minute by yourselves. Okay, so obviously we have a tree and a magnet and a sheep and a building and a bar of gold and a glass of water. And again, I'll repeat the question. It's what is this stuff made of? Well, over hundreds of years, or thousands of years, really, as far back as scientific people or people with scientific minds have started to think about this question, they have come up with many, many different explanations. The ancient Greeks were some of the first people to start trying to think scientifically about things and try to start writing things down. And they had the idea that all objects, including objects like this in the diagram or in the picture, were made of four different things. And they were earth, wind, fire, and water. And it kind of makes sense that they would think that because those were the materials that they could see most easily around them. They didn't know anything about they didn't know about half of the materials that we have today, and they certainly didn't know the detail of what makes up these materials that we know nowadays. So this was kind of the first idea, trying to explain what stuff is made of. Now nowadays we have a much more advanced and a better idea of what those things are made of. Now, if we just decide, if we just take one or two of those objects and we consider them again. So, say we are talking about the block of gold. So, I'm going to draw the block of gold again here. So, we've got a block of gold or a gold bar. Okay, now if we were to take our, I know it's gold because it's got gold written on. Okay, now I know it's gold. And if we were to take our gold and we were to zoom in and have a look, well, what is it? What exactly is the gold made of? Well, inside the gold, we would find small pieces, which I'm drawing here as circles. Now, it's a little bit more complicated than this, and we are going to come across, or we're going to look at the idea of what these circles are later on. But for now, know that these circles are what we call atoms. So that means the gold bar is made of something called atoms. So these are atoms. Okay. If we take a second example, say we took the tree. So here are the tree and took the tree and I zoomed in. And I was having a look at what is the tree made of. Well, what I would find is I would find atoms again. Now this time I'm going to, the last time I colored them in, maybe I didn't make it clear. I'm going to go back. I'm just going to color in the gold atoms. So these are all, I'm going to draw these all in a goldy color. So these are gold circles and I'm coloring them in gold. Now, again, we call these atoms. They make up the gold. This time I'm going to draw some atoms, but these ones are not going to be the same color because here are some that I am drawing in blue. And I am also drawing some green. So there are atoms here as well. Okay. So again, we call these atoms. Okay, so what are atoms? Well, we've just found out that the gold is made of atoms. Excuse me now, I'm just going to pause the video for a second because my whiteboard is after crashing. So just going to pause the video and I'll come back to it in a second. And we are back. Sorry about that. So yeah, basically, if we look at the tree, we see atoms. And if we look at the gold, if we were to zoom in, we would see atoms. And that is the same as all of these things above. The magnet would also be made of atoms. The sheep, the building, the glass of water, all made of atoms. So atoms then are what we call, if we say they are the basic building blocks of all substances. Sorry, that's a bit messy, my handwriting, you'll have to forgive me. Basic building blocks of all substances. That's what an atom is. Atom is the basic building block of all substances. All right, so what I'm going to get you guys to do is I'm going to get you to pause the video and I'm going to get you to take down what's in the box there. Just pause the video, take down the word atom and the explanation, the basic building block of all substances. Okay, so she'd only be hearing my voice now if you pause the video and taken down the definition or the explanation for what an atom is. We're going to do a little bit of practice now before we go any further. And what I would like you to do is I would like you to cover over anything that you've written down or drawn down so far. Like I said, you don't need to try and frantically write down everything that I say or draw everything I say. I will tell you what to take down, what's important. So cover over anything you've done and we're going to do some practice. Now, we're always trying to do our practice questions from memory, not by looking at anything we've written down. So cover over anything and you need a blank page for the practice. Okay. Right, so here are the first couple of practice questions I would like you to do. Very simply, what are all substances made of and what is an atom? So pause the video and don't play it until, you shouldn't be listening to my voice again until you have tried to do those two questions for me. Okay, all right, so what are all substances made of? All substances are made of atoms. That's what you should have. All substances are made of atoms. You'll notice the way I answered it in a full sentence. I didn't just say atoms. It's much better if you can answer in a full sentence answer. It's much better quality. So don't let yourself off the hook. Be strict with yourself. If you just wrote atoms, then try and fix that now. And remember, the next time you've got to write a full sentence answer. Next thing is, what is an atom? So we're looking for an explanation of an atom. So an atom is a basic building block of all substances. All right, that should have been easy peasy so far. Okay, 2 full sentences answers, and it's just the stuff we've done so far. Right, moving on. So we know we have atoms in the gold bar and we have atoms in the tree. I want you to look closely at the atoms in the gold bar and the atoms in the tree for a second again. Just remind yourself. Okay, now as you can see, all of the atoms in the gold bar are all orange. This indicates to us that they are all the same type of atoms. So we have only orange atoms here. So the gold is made of all the same atoms. Okay. Whereas if we look at the tree, yes, the tree is made of atoms. As you can see, the green and blue atoms, but some are green and some are blue. This tells us that the tree is made of different atoms. The tree is made of different atoms. So gold is made of only one type of atom, and those atoms are called gold atoms. You will only find gold atoms there. The tree is made of different types of atoms. Now, gold is an example of what we call an element. Gold is an element because it is made of only one type of atom. And we're going to see a little bit more about elements later on, but know that gold is an element, and this is because it has only one type of atom, gold atoms. The tree is not an element because the tree has different atoms. The tree has blue atoms and green atoms here. I'm not telling you what the name of them is, but I am telling you because they are different, this is not an element. Okay, so far, I'm just going to pause the screen to move something here. So in summary, so far, what we know is that everything is made of atoms. So all substances, everything is made of atoms. We had some examples in the first picture. We had the tree, the sheep, magnet, building, gold block, glass of water, humans. Everything is made of atoms. So everything is made of atoms. Now, there are exactly 118 different types of atoms that exist in the world. So there are 118 different types of atoms that exist in the world. And the different types of atoms we call elements. Okay, so we have gold is one element, for example. I know gold is an element because gold is a material that's made of only one type of atom, gold atoms. So an element, gold is an element. The tree is not an element because it's made of different types of atoms. Now, it's made up of some elements, but it's not an element. The whole tree is not an element, okay? Now, those 118 different types of atoms, or what we call the elements, scientists have tried to arrange them into a kind of a table. So for a long time, we've been trying to categorize the elements and put them into useful lists so that we can study them and study their patterns. So I'm just going to show you now what they have come up with so far. So this is what we call the periodic table of elements. Now, at the first time you see it, this can look a little bit it's a little bit scary, but there's nothing to be afraid of, okay? We are going to be studying this particular table in much more detail, but there's nothing to be afraid of. Just know that each one of these different boxes with the different symbols in them is a different element or a different type of atom. And that's all there is to it, really. Now, there's lots of patterns and numbers that you can see, and we are going to figure out what all of that is about. But this is a very useful way of categorizing all the different things we know about different elements. And it's actually a real thing of beauty, this periodic table, because it's taken a hell of a lot of work from a lot of different scientists to get that up to its modern day state. It's like a piece of art for people who are interested in science. Now, you can't go back 300 years to like old cave paintings and find a perfect picture of this. That's the thing. This is a pretty modern scientific piece of work, I suppose, but it's been worked on by a hell of a lot of scientists to get it to where it is now. All right, so at this stage, we are going to pause the video and you're going to have a go at three more questions. So I want you to do these three for me. So pause the video and I want you to do those three questions now, please. Okay, so you should only be watching the video if you have answered those three questions, number 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so how many different types of atom are there? That would be, there are 118 different types of atom. That's what you should have written, 118. And in a full sentence is best there, please. What do we call the different types of atoms? Different types of atoms are known as elements. So again, a full sentence, we call the different types of atoms elements. Well done if you got that right. Tick it. If not, fix it now. Copper is an element that is a solid at room temperature. Draw a diagram to show the type of atoms in a block of copper. Well, there's a couple of things we have to highlight here. We're telling you it's an element. That's an important piece of information. And we're telling you that it's a solid. So it's a element and it's solid. Well, first of all, solid, that's a little bit of a recap from last year. So solids, we draw with particles. So we draw a diagram where we have particles that are all touching each other like this, and they're in straight rows. They're in a regular repeating pattern. So something like this. This is a solid. So this is what you should have done. And I have chosen the color orange because copper is orange. And you'll notice that they're all the same atom. That shows me that it's an element. There's no other colored atoms, or there's no other different type of atom in here. They're all the same atom. So if you look back at what I have highlighted, I said it's a solid element. So this diagram shows that properly because it shows it's a solid because of the particles arranged in neat rows all touching, and it shows that it's an element because all the particles are the same. So this is a block of copper. So that's what you should have. Well done. If you got that right, take it. If not, you need to fix it now. Okay, so you need to draw that now. Okay, so just leave it there for a second if you guys need to take that. Okay, we're just going to do a little bit more summarizing now on what an element is. Okay, so what is an element? On 3, speak your answer to the screen. So I want you to speak it out loud. I know it's strange, but we'll get used to it. We'll do a lot of this on this channel. So I just want you to speak your answer out to the screen. Hopefully there's nobody around and this isn't too uncomfortable. So how would you describe an element? Okay, so speak your answer to the screen now. 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, at this stage, we know that we're talking about a substance made of only one type of atom. We know that this is known as an element. So an element is a substance made of only one type of atom. Okay, substance made of only one type of atom. That is what we call an element. Now, if we take a look at some examples, so we have, if we take the example of iron. Iron is a substance, and if we take a lump of iron, iron is a solid at room temperature. It has the symbol Fe. If we went to look on the periodic table, we would find the symbol Fe. And iron is a solid, so I show that by having particles all arranged in neat rows like this. And each of these would be an iron particle. I can show that by writing Fe in them. Each one is Fe, Fe, so on. So all 9 of these particles are Fe, like that. This shows that all these atoms are the same, and therefore it is an element. Oxygen, oh, sorry, I spelled that incorrectly. Oxygen. Oxygen is a substance that is a gas at room temperature. And oxygen is made of groups of 2 atoms like this. So there is a piece of oxygen with 2 atoms stuck together. Here is a second particle of oxygen, and you'll notice that they are separate here. There is a gap between them, and this shows us that that is a gas. So the particles are not touching the way they were for iron. So they are a bit more spread out, and that shows that this is a gas, and oxygen is a gas. Oxygen has the symbol O, like this. O. Now, if I go back to the periodic table, and I will show you those 2 elements. Here is O, and here is Fe, which was iron. So Fe is here. So anything that's an element that's made of only one type of atom, you will find on this periodic table, because it's the periodic table of the elements. Periodic table of the elements. You notice the thing that I drew up here, which had more than one type of atom, which was the tree. The tree had more than one type of atom, or different types of atoms. There is no element on here called tree. And that's because there is no such thing as the element tree. The tree is not an element. It's made of more than one type of atom. So only the individual single types of atoms are found on here. And 2 of those are iron and oxygen. Now just be careful and note that even though oxygen is in groups of 2 atoms, they are the same atom, same type of atom. They're all O's. So it's still an element. We also can see here that this is a gas and this is a solid. So elements can be solids or gases, and they could also be liquids. No big deal at all here. Okay. So same type of atom, that means it's, or only one type of atom, that means it's an element. All right, time to do some more questions. Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and I want you to complete these 2 sentences, please, by filling in the gaps. So pause the video and do that now. Okay, this is what you should have. You should only be listening to my voice if you've done this now, please. An atom is the basic, what's the gap here? It's building block. Building block. So an atom is the basic building block of something substances. Well, it's every substance or all substances. Well done. If you got that right, tick it. Okay. If not, fix it. So an atom is the basic building block of all substances. What about the second one? An element is a substance made of the, okay, so that's going to be the same type of atoms. So there's only one type, or they're all the same. If you've got a piece of the substance, all the atoms are the same. Good, thank you. I've got another task for you now. I want you to take a look at this diagram and I want you to classify them. Look at the pictures, take a look there over them. And our job is to classify them, which means to say, are they an element or not an element? That's what we're going to be doing. Element or not an element. I'm going to do the first one for you. And what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the atoms. The atoms are all blue, all the same. So if they're all the same, it is an element. Okay. So what I want you to do now is I want you to pause the video and go ahead and do B, C, D, E, and F. Do that now, please. Okay, so you should only be watching the video if you have done all of these. Okay. Right, let's have a look at B. Well, I'm not looking at B and I see a blue atom and it's attached to a yellow atom or beige or pink or whatever color that is. But the main thing to note is that they're not the same type of atom. Okay, there's more than one type of atom in there, so this is not an element. Well done if you got that right. Not an element. C, I'm looking and I'm seeing, yeah, there are 2 separate squares or 2 separate cubes of atoms, but they're all the same atom. So even though they're 2 separate pieces, it's still an element. It's an element. It's an element in 2 pieces. What about D? D is all green. I just see green atoms. So it's all the same element. It's all the same atom. So this is an element. E, I'm looking, I'm seeing groups of 2 atoms stuck together. And I'm seeing that they're all yellow. Now, of the substances we looked at so far, which one was this like from the examples I gave you? So on 3, speak your answer to the screen. 1, 2, 3. I'm hoping that you said this was like the oxygen because it's in groups of 2 and it's a gas, which means that the particles are spread out like they are here. And all the atoms are the same, which means it is an element. So it is an element. And lastly, I have a group of 4 atoms. 2 of them are yellow, and I've got 1 blue and 1 orange, and they're all stuck together in a group. And because it's not all the same type of atom, then it's definitely not an element. Not an element. Of course, it is a bit more complicated than this. If it's not an element, the next question is, well, what is it? If it's not an element, what do we call it instead? And we will get to that. But for right now, I'm just interested in you knowing if something is an element or not. Okay, so well done. If you've got all those right today, you've done really good. And I will see you in the next video where we will discuss 2 different groups of elements and we'll look at some of their features. So 2 main groups of elements that we have and we'll look at some of the features. Okay, see you in the next video.